Hello, MSOE fans, and welcome to the Raider Report, where we sit down with MSOE coaches to discuss all things Raider athletics, from game reactions to recruiting news and everything in between. The Raider Report has all the behind-the-scenes details and news you want. This week, our guest is head coach of women's lacrosse, Terra Ringo. At this time, I am joined by the head coach of women's lacrosse, Terra Ringo. Coach, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Let's get right into it. First things first, normal first question. How did you end up as an MSOE Raider?
Yeah, well, just opportunity, I think, is what brought me here. I came from a college coaching job and moved into the club high school level, just kind of waiting for the right fit. And I just got lucky enough that this opportunity popped up to start the program. And that's something that really intrigued me. So glad to be here, though.
Yeah, and you're starting from the ground up, which is an interesting kind of predicament to be in. Talk to me about a little bit what your priorities have been in the off season. What kind of challenges have you faced in building a team?
Yeah, so I would say that, I've been spending, and that's going to be a key thing for me for a while, but recruiting is a huge thing. So, coming into a program that had 0 players, and you need 12 to play on the field, but you need way more than that. So just hitting the ground floor with recruiting has been a big priority for me. And then, with the off season, we have a team full of players that have played before and new players. So just kind of teaching the ground floor of that and kind of building that and setting our expectations here is the biggest thing that I would say that we're doing in the off season. Just them learning my coaching style, me learning, kind of how they tick as athletes and things like that, pretty much.
You set me up for like 8 different questions
Sorry.
there, but I guess I'll start next with, let's talk about your history as a player, because you talked about the wide range of history you've had on the team. Girls who have played before, girls who have never even touched a lacrosse stick coming out for the first time. You were a super decorated player, 4-year letter winner at the old Robert Morris, as I refer to it. Multiple time All-Conference, multiple time All-American, you're multiple time captain, and you're a national champion. It might be hard, but kind of sum up what happened at Robert Morris, your career, what your takeaways were from that.
Yeah, I'll kind of just even start a little bit before that, if that's all right with you.
For sure.
So I picked up lacrosse at a new high school. I came from a really small town in Colorado, and then I never heard of lacrosse, picked it up in high school just as an off-season for basketball, and once I picked that up, it just changed my life for the best. And I got lucky enough to get some all-state awards, playing for a couple years in high school. But that's why I'm a big believer in, you don't have to start when you're 8. You could start at 14, 15, you could start at 18 to learn how to play this sport. But yeah, I got lucky enough that I got a scholarship to play at Robert Morris University, downtown Chicago. So their freshman year, I came in and we had a big recruiting class. And so I knew that I needed to, work hard, and I was going to outwork all my teammates to earn a starting spot. I went in as a midfielder, and they moved me to the defensive end and transferred, kind of throughout games, they'd move me into the midfield on and off. But I'm the type of player that I just want to play the game. So no matter where you put me, that's where I'm going to play. And I think that really worked well for Robert Morris, because that's what they were looking for, is those players that is just willing to do whatever it takes to win. My freshman year, we started and we went from a not winning season to we went to the national championship tournament. So we played into the Elite 8 and then ended up losing. And then the following year, we did lots of work and we went in and we made it to the national championship game, won the national championship that year, which was honestly a dream come true. I mean, winning it at any level, NCAA, NAI, you were at the top of your game. I got lucky enough that was the year that I won my first All-American. I also won the Defensive Player of the Year for the entire league, so that was an honor. But from there, I thankfully kept, getting more awards, but really what mattered to me was just us winning. If I got 0 of those awards, I still would have been just equally as happy as I am, because I had such a positive experience there. I got to play the game that I love, in a city, that's great. But at the end of the day, I got to make an impact on that program. So that's what was important to me. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So when did you realize that you wanted to be a coach? And then at what point, and I know in talking with Coach Hart and other coaches I've had on, some people say you're never necessarily ready for your first head coaching job. Did you ever feel like you were ready? Like, I need to be a head coach. This is what I was put on this earth to do.
Yeah. So I had an interesting path to coaching. So right out of college, I was planning on going to law school.
Okay.
So that was my plan. Law school, it was. I applied to law schools, got into law schools. Really wanted to go to law school in New York, and that was what I was doing. And then Amanda at Missouri Baptist reached out to me because we play against them, and she's like, "Look, I'm looking for an assistant. I think you'd be a great fit." And I had done some coaching just through club, but that's just to make some part-time money when you're in college, and I loved it, but I didn't think that coaching was where it was going to be. So just I ended up saying yes, and I was like, I'll just try this out as an assistant. Decided to get my master's degree while I was there as well. And then I would say after the first year, I realized that I really liked this and I wanted to pursue head coaching positions. I think for me, like leadership kind of comes naturally to me. Like I feel like I always want to learn. I always want to do better. And I feel like I bring a lot to the table each and every year that I continue coaching. So kind of after that first year, going into that second year, I felt ready. And I know that kind of, I don't want it to sound, cocky or anything, but it was my time. I felt like that I was going to pursue being a head coach at the collegiate level. So obviously, I spent there another year there, but I was just ready after that point.
For sure. So you mentioned wanting to go to law school out in New York. You've lived in Missouri. You lived in Colorado. You've lived in Illinois. Where does Milwaukee rank amongst the cities that you've been in? And at the very least, I need to know it's better than St. Louis, right?
Well, so St. Louis really grew on me when I first moved out there. It was so different from Chicago. I know. It really grew on me, and I actually really enjoyed my time there. But the thing about St. Louis, why Milwaukee is a little better than St. Louis, is because they have an NBA team here. So
okay.
I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm a huge sports fan. So the fact that they don't have an NBA team, and now they, obviously don't have an NFL team.
Yeah.
Like the sporting life isn't there.
Yeah.
In St. Louis, so Milwaukee will get that a little bit over that.
Yes,
so,
Cardinals are bust, unless you're an XFL fan or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. But I will say, though, Colorado, ride or die, that's my hometown, that's my home state. Always and above everything.
For sure. So I had a quote from you. When I think of team, I think of them as a family. In order to gain respect and have my players trust me, I need to treat them as a family. What does that mean to you? In my eyes, it's almost like we need to talk and communicate as one, like you're not above anyone despite being the coach. Open communication. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think of when I say that about a team being a family, it doesn't necessarily mean that we all get along all the time. We all love each other all the time. There are going to be times that as a coach, I get frustrated with them, right? Parents get frustrated with their kids. Aunts get frustrated with their nieces and nephews, vice versa. So that's kind of how I want the team to be. Like, we don't always have to see eye to eye in that moment, but if there's trust in me and trust vice versa, we could work together and make something magical kind of happen. I would say that, and I'd hope that my players now and my players in the past that I've coached that would agree to this, but I'm big on, at the end of the day, yes, it's going to be my decision. However, I don't want it to feel that way. I want it to be a conversation. So even when we practice and I speak to them on the field, I ask questions. I don't say, you do this. I say, what do you think we should do next? And then they're like, we should maybe cut through. We should do this. And I'd say, yeah, that's one option. Or there's this option as well. And this would probably be better. And I'd explain why. Like, I kind of turn it into like teaching lessons. And it's kind of just like, I don't know, like raising kids. I don't know. I'm not a parent, so don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, we might have some parents coming after you in the comments on that one. You mentioned your coaching style. You You've talked to me a little bit about your pregame routine in college. Are you intense on game day? Obviously, you said you had a club background dealing with high schoolers. I assume you grew a little bit of patience in that experience. But do you flip a switch on game day? Is it like, let's rock and roll?
Yeah, so myself as a player, definitely kind of leans into a little bit of how I am as a coach. But I think on game day, one thing that you will see, and all my players I know for a fact that I've coached in the past can agree with this. I'm a pacer because I have kind of no control. That's one of the hardest things about coaching is when you're a player, you go on the field and you could just be like, oh, I'm picking up the slack for my teammates. I'll go get every ground ball. I'll move the ball better. I'll do, my part. As a coach, you gotta trust them. I could sub, I could call a timeout, but at the end of the day, I can't walk on the field and say, just give me the ball and let's do this. So I pace a lot because I'm a little anxious. So, they always know stuff a couple yards back on the sideline because I'm going to be walking up and down. But I always kind of look at it as let's take care of business, right? A business meeting. You have an agenda. You go in, you open your briefcase, you say what you need to say, you close your briefcase, you go home. That's how I look at games. That's kind of how I was as a player, and that's how I am as a coach. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Let's get into everyone's favorite segment, Raider Rapid Fire here. Just want the first thoughts coming off the top of your head. You're walking into a stadium. What's the worst song that could be playing?
I don't want to say. I don't want more comments, coming for me. No, I'll say. This is, I don't dislike this song, but for a stadium, I feel like We Will Rock You is just like, I know it's classic, but I want a song that I'm like ready to like run through the wall, Kool-Aid Man style too, right?
Sure,
to get things going.
For you.
Yeah, I'm like, we need to get things going. So
okay, that's fair. I get that. I like that because that's overplayed. That's been around. It's had its time. Move on. Your favorite movie?
Love and Basketball.
Love and Basketball.
Yes.
Okay. TV side character.
Okay. My favorite show of all time is One Tree Hill, so I have to say Brooke Davis. The show is about the boys. They're about the two brothers, and she really is the reason why I love that show. So she's the star of the show in my eyes. I
feel like there was a certain demographic of guys who made that One Tree Hill basketball jersey go like triple platinum in the suburbs back in the day. Your favorite place to eat? I'm gonna add the caveat in Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee.
We can open it up in general. You're pretty well traveled.
Because I would say that I have to say back home I have to get a shout out to Adolfo's. Okay. In Colorado, it's like a fast food Mexican place, but their burritos insane. Their salsa insane.
So what's the order?
So I would get either bean and cheese burrito with salsa verde, or I'd get a breakfast burrito with bacon and salsa verde. So
nice little roll on the R there. Yeah. Real authentic.
My Hispanic side is showing.
Your go-to gear brand for lacrosse stuff. I know Nike. Some of those bigger brands aren't necessarily in the lacrosse gear space. So what's your go-to?
I'd say String King for my stick. I really love the all mesh pockets. I'd say Nike for my cleats. I'd say goggles. I mean, there's not a lot of brands, so STX would probably be the one that we'd go with. And then if we're going like socks and stuff, I'd go Nike too.
For sure. Yeah. Nice. Your favorite athlete growing up and now?
Favorite athlete growing up and now, LeBron James. Or Chloe Kim. So she's, obviously a little younger than LeBron James, but she's one of the best snowboarders to ever snowboard, so she's insane too. So LeBron James or Chloe Kim. For sure.
All right, now, I think I might know this one, but your go-to pregame song?
Till I Collapse by Eminem.
Yeah, that's what I expected.
Yep.
And then my favorite question, the most important question to me, you're going to the movies, I need the full order. I need your snack, your drink, and your candy. What are you walking in?
Okay. Popcorn.
Okay.
And icy.
What color icy?
Okay,
Let's go. Someone who gets an icy.
Yeah, I like the cherry ices. Okay. But also every now and then the Coke ices are good too. Yeah. I can't drink like a whole one, but
you never
enough.
can.
Yeah.
You never can.
So and then candy, either peanut M&Ms or like Sour Patch Kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are not related.
No.
All right.
But those are two candies.
I like it. Those are two candies. Yeah, and you're not wrong. All right, we'll get back on track here. So we talked about you having several other athletes from other sports joining your spot. You have some soccer players, you have some track athletes joining. It must be nice that they're familiar with MSOE athletics, but do you ever have to find yourself breaking them out of the habits that Rolf or Bill has instilled in them? Is it like, yeah, I know, no, that is one way to do things, but this is how I do things?
Yeah, Rolf or Bill, if you're listening, no. But no, so let me first start by saying that it's actually really helpful that we have players that have played other sports here and have gone through the academics and the athletic side of things, because when I bring recruits on campus, our freshmen, our sophomores that are just learning how to play a sport and go to school, they're great examples of kind of how to do that. For example, we have 3 athletes that have played sports and are now seniors, so they've gone through the last couple years of playing a sport and going to school here, and so they're great examples of just how to manage both, like the load of academics and athletics. But I think the biggest thing is that I'm a very athletic person and a very athletic mindset, so I kind of use terms from basketball, from soccer. I could even pull a track term to get them to kind of understand. Soccer, for example, when we're trying to get passes, I use the example of a through pass. And the minute I said that, my soccer girls go, "Oh, yep, got it." And I'm like, all it is a through pass. And so there's a lot of things that relate. So I try to really go through theirs, and try to make sure that I give different types of examples, because everyone has played different sports. So luckily I have 2, so I could use kind of the analogies of other sports to help do that. But it's been great having them, for sure.
Yeah, no, and being around lacrosse on the fly, it is very overwhelming at first. You're like, sticks, and what are all the rules and everything? But then once you actually watch it, you're like, oh, it's kind of like basketball crossed with soccer, crossed with hockey, and it all just kind of comes together. So tell me, what does a typical lacrosse practice for you look like? Why do you structure practices the way you do, and what's kind of your overall philosophy?
Yeah. I don't want to give away all my secrets, but, I'm big on starting with conditioning. We start with conditioning, we end with conditioning, but we start with it specifically because we play games when we're tired, right? It's great that my players can run up and down the field in the first quarter, the second quarter, third quarter, but if they can't run up and down the field in the fourth quarter when they're exhausted and we really need it, then it's not going to go over well for us. So that's kind of my philosophy on that. So we structure practice. We always do conditioning. We always do stick work. We also do conditioning before stick work, because we need to be able to pass the ball when we're tired. Coming off of our conditioning, we go right into it. So that's a little bit of my philosophy behind that. But we also, it just kind of depends on if we, have a game coming up this week. We're going to be having a game this weekend, so our practice looks different this week versus last week. But when in doubt, we always hit a little bit of the kind of just getting our sticks moving, little ground balls, and we always end with some sort of like scrimmage type. So whether it's a 3v3, a 7v7, full field, half field, I always like to end with that, because that's the best part of playing, right? Is right. The actual playing against each other. But my philosophy kind of, it's just really build each practice. So at the beginning of the season in January, we started with a lot of stick work, a lot of the basics, I will say, and then we've built from there. And then we're incorporating offense, now defense, transitions, like every day, every week, we're just getting better and building more and more. And that's kind of how I structure out pretty much the whole season of practice, give or take couple adjustments, but yeah.
And as a former football player, I love hearing that you have conditioning with a purpose built into your practice. It's not like, oh, they're holding on to conditioning as like a punishment.
Yeah.
Like you actually have a reasoning behind it. So people are like, oh, why are we running again? And it's like, there's psychology at work here.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things about me as a coach, is because I take some of the things that I didn't like as players. As a player, I didn't like that obviously you don't need to know everything that the coaches do, but I want there to be some purpose, right? So the biggest thing with me is I always kind of explain why we're doing things. So with conditioning, we condition with all of our gear on. So I don't allow them to condition without their sticks, without their goggles, without their mouth guard, sometimes with the ball, sometimes without the ball. But I make them do it with their gear at all times because we play in a game with their gear on. A lot of stuff that we do, I'm like, this is what I want you to imagine. If we're sprinting one way, jogging the other way, I'm like, okay, we're sprinting to defense, we're recovering on offense because we're in control of the ball. Things like that. So I give them reasons why to do it because I feel like it helps motivate them better than saying, get on the line and we're just running and there's no reason. So everything I kind of do, I tell them to imagine this in a game, whether that's conditioning, whether that's stick work, anything. So, yeah.
Not to catch you off guard with this one, but I have a quote from when you were first hired at the high school ranks. You said you wanted your goals for the program was to be known for passion and growth. Do those same goals still apply at MSOE?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I was grateful enough to be able to start a program from scratch at the high school level. And the biggest thing there was I started with zero as well. And so I just wanted at the high school level, JV level, varsity level, just to build the program and the game to become, loved and the players to find passion in this game. And I would say it's even more important at the collegiate level because a lot of players are coming here and it's not like high school. They're not coming here and they're playing 3 different sports and they're doing this, they're doing that. Sometimes they're coming here and they're focusing on their education and playing one sport, which is lacrosse. So those are still important things to me. The passion part of it, the growth aspect is I want to grow on the field a lot. So growth in that quote kind of meant to me of like growing the game. Here I want to still grow the game, but I want to grow the game on the field as in getting better each year. So no matter how the outcome of this season, we're going to be the first first team to ever play at MSOE for women's lacrosse. So we're kind of setting the ground floor. And next year, then we're going to get a little better and better and better. And I'll say it here first, I want to compete for a national championship. Like, that's what I want. And that's what I want my players to have, that passion of like, we want to get better each season, each day, each year. We want to compete. We want to be the best eventually. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's a common thread we've heard Bill say in, our meetings here. If you're not competing for a national championship, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You got to find something else.
For sure.
Talk to me a little bit about the recruiting process for you. Do you recruit athletes purely from lacrosse? Do you kind of see athletes in other sports and think, oh, I'm going to convert them, for a lack of a better word? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I'm recruiting incoming freshmen, incoming transfers, I am focusing on the lacrosse side of things. However, I will say that in my head, when I watch film, when I watch an athlete, I'm not just looking like, oh, they caught every single pass. That's great. That's awesome. I'm very glad that they did, but I'm looking at the little things outside of that too. One, academics being a huge part of it. I want them to understand that we strive, especially not only just at MSOE, but especially in our women's lacrosse program, to be the best academic students. I want my players to come here and get good grades and get a good education and go on and have a good, career. So that's a big part of it too. But as an incoming recruit, one of the biggest things is coachability. So I've had recruits that I've spoke to before that have said, oh, I'm just an attacker, I don't play defense, right? And to me right away, that was a no for me, because you, as an attacker, you redefend. Like, you don't just shoot and then if the goalie blocks it, say, all right, I'm going to stand here, so to have that mindset of I only play attack, that's not what I want within the program. So those little things I'm looking for. You could come in as attacker and maybe you'll never actually play defense, but you have the mindset of I'm willing to do whatever it takes, similar to how I was as a player. Those are the kind of things I'm looking at for recruits. Like that and coachability, and at the end of the day, I want good lacrosse players too. So we have some great incoming talent coming in next year as well, and we're starting our 25 recruiting class, and we're building from there. But I think each recruiting class that's going to be coming in is going to be better than the next, and it's just going to be better and better, and our program is going to be good, hopefully.
For sure. And like you said, when you're starting fresh, starting from the ground up, that foundation is going to be so important. You need to make sure that those kids you're bringing in are exactly what you want, like your vision to be for the future. So, Coach, we'll get you out of here, but I have one final question for you. First game is coming up on Sunday. First game in MSOE history for women's lacrosse. What else do you guys have on the horizon, and how can people help support Raider women's lacrosse?
Yeah, so I think coming out to our home games would be great. I mean, if you are in the areas of the away games as well, that would be awesome. Streaming them, watching them, just supporting us would be great. But on the horizon, I will say that we have, quite a few home games this year, thankfully. I know March 23rd, we have a home game, and we have some recruits coming in to watch that game. I know SAC is kind of promoting that as well, so that we have lots of parents coming in that day too. So for some reason, March 23rd became just the game that a lot of people want to go to. So if you're in the area for that, come then. But also come to all of our games. That would be great. But I just hope that we could make, MSOE proud. I hope that we could make the city of Milwaukee proud. And I hope we could just grow the game and, look back on this interview a few years from now and be like, yeah, that we did what we wanted to do, which is, build a foundation and grow the game and just get better each day in every game.
For sure. I hope so. We'll have to come back and revisit this one day. Thank you to Coach Ringo for taking the time to join us, and make sure that you're in the stands at Viets Field on Sunday, March 10th, when MSOE Women's Lacrosse hosts their inaugural game against the College of St. Benedict, and the Raiders take on the Bennies. Thank you again for listening, and as always, go Raiders. You can follow Raider Athletics on YouTube at MSOE Raider Athletics, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at MSOE_Raiders. Don't forget to find us on Spotify, too. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, repost, share, and get the word out to all your Raider friends and family. We want you to be heard. Mention us on social media and tell us what you want to hear about. Go Raiders!